So we're gonna be talking about the Writer Retribution book series. Why the fuck am I saying this so fast? Fuck it, I'm leaving it in. We're gonna be talking about the Writer Retribution book 2. Well, I guess we'll talk about the entire series. And if you haven't, like, if you've read this whole series is basically like it's basically like it's like tying everything from I'm guessing from the first Core Wars together. So this is basically for super fans. Like if you've read all of the books from Randy Darren and William D. Aaron, this is a book you definitely want to read because we get dropped so much stuff that it's not even funny. It's like we get Warren Retribution, who was referenced in Swing Shift and who was referenced in Incubus. We get to meet the judge, who was also, well, we don't get to meet her, but she's getting name dropped a few times. We get another name for fucking Riker. Like, Riker's important. Like, we haven't seen Riker since Supercells and Superheroes back at the end of the world of Felix's first world. Before, not Legion Prime or Yosemite World, but like the original. What's the name of the original world? We never got a name for that. But anyway, we get all of that. We haven't seen Riker or the Architect at all, which makes sense. And like we get him, we get all of this, we get so much information in these two books that it's like mind blowing. It's like ever since like Incubus book 2 had came out, it's just information after information after information after information, and it's just like I love it because it's so much world building. Because from Supercells for superheroes on back, with the whole we get Vincent the Waste, and we get Fostering Faust, and we get Monster Mercy, which I haven't finished yet. I still need to read book 2 and 3. We get all of these other stories, but we never really get more information on the first Core Wars, which we get information dropped. We get that all the way back in Dungeon to Pose. We get that all the way back then, and we don't get any information until we just started getting information in Swing Shift, and that was like a drip feed. We get like a big explosion in Incubus book 1 and 2, but by far the most information we get about the universe is in Rite of Retribution. And we don't get, now we just get one of the universes. We don't get to see the whole multiverse of everything that's going on. But based on what I can tell, this is one of the core worlds, like one of the most important worlds, because it's one of the worlds that Zeus or the Silent One has main dominion over. So it's really important that we understand what's going on. So I really love the fact that in Writer Retribution we get so much information. So let me take it back from the beginning. In the beginning of Writer Retribution, we get the very first chapter. The very first couple of paragraphs we get is Retribution, or Warren Norwood, and his fight against the Sword Singer during the war in the end, which we get a reference to in Incubus. We get that at the beginning of the book. We haven't seen anything about the first core world in its entirety, besides what we get in Incubus, and all we get there is a quick transfer through. We got to see a little bit of the war. We got to see Baron, who was referenced in Swing Shift book 2 and 3. We get to see the Sword Singer, who we get to see who we get referenced to in Incubus book 2. We get to meet so many people. We get to see we get to see like War, who betrayed War, who ended up betraying Runner, and I'm guessing one of the other people who betrayed him, Seville, who was actually fucking Steve from Remnant, which I need to read book 3 because I haven't finished that. But we get all of this in the beginning of the book. The very first couple of paragraphs in the first chapter, we get so much information about the First Core War that we never got in all of the books that William D. Aaron and Randy Darren has dropped. Besides Incubus, we get the most information, and it's so exciting to the point where I couldn't even. Oh my, bruh! If I was a live streamer, you would have seen me rolling around on my bed doing backflips or something. Because I was so excited. Like even now, I'm so animated about this. Woo! But like, we haven't gotten information drop like that. Period. Like we knew completely nothing about what was going on in this series. Like we got references to the First Core World back in Dungeon of Pose. We got a little bit. We got basic, but besides that, we got nothing until Incubus. And like to actually see part of the battlefield from what the First Core War was like great, and it was just it was just great. And then we got the another thing that we really got after that was we got the whole story with Maya and everything, but unfortunately, I'll talk about. I can't really. I don't really want to talk. Well, I do because this is talking about Retribution, the writer of Retribution. But Maya wasn't really that important. Well, she's an important character. Don't get me wrong. She's his. She is. She is Warner's daughter, and she has. I'm guessing she has a piece of the divine spark within her because she can have visions, and she's been to the room. The what do they call it? The I don't think she's been to. She's been actually we don't know where she's been. She got to see the vision of him dying, but which we'll talk about later because that's a whole nother thing that happened in book 2 that I wasn't expecting. But I digress. Going back, we get to see the whole situation with what happened with Maya. I know I'm 7 minutes into this whole thing, and I haven't really 7, 8 minutes into the whole thing, and I haven't really talked about what actually was going on. But here it is. Where we begin is because I'm gonna have to do a quick. I keep breaking it up, but I'm gonna have to say this. I'm doing a quick run through Rider Retribution book 1 because the most information we get is in book 2. Not saying book 1 isn't important. It's a fucking good read. It's a really good read, and they're as like William D. Aaron's books aren't really that long, like 300, 400 pages. They're not that long. They're really good reads, and I do suggest you read it. But most of the information we get, most of the stuff I get hyped about is in book 2. But I'm gonna run through book 1 real quick. So in book 1 we get the whole situation with Warner versus the DA because Maya, his daughter, had got hit in a hit and run accident with the police, which can I say in the climate that we're in today is a very big like statement. It's like something bold to do because we're having all these issues with the police right now, and just to drop something like this, it's really like it's kind of powering. But we get this whole situation, and we get everything that's going on with that whole thing, and then on top of that, while he's dealing with that, he and Warner, who, as far as he knows, doesn't even know anything about the paranormal world because, again, this is Warner. This isn't Warren. This isn't Retribution. This is Warner. This is, well, if you've read Incubus, I'm just going to go ahead and say this so you can be on the page. This was Mitch. Warner is Mitch. So you can take that how it is. If you've read Incubus book 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That kid, Mitch, that's him. But we get that whole situation while he's dealing with the DA. So like while this is going on, Warner is getting these like sparks of like golden fluttery power things that he doesn't really know what it is. which we find out later is an angelic spark that's like coursing through his body, but he doesn't know this. He doesn't even know anything about the paranormal world. So like he's just completely like lost. He thinks he's going insane because like he can smell injustice on people. He can like feel everything that's the wrongness in the world, how the world is unbalanced. We get all of this without him actually knowing what's going on. And see, you see him start freaking out, but like the power inside of him, like it kind of like influences him to go stop crime, and he ends up killing people. Like this is retribution. This isn't somebody who's trying to help redeem people. He's going straight out and killing people, chastising people who have done wrong in the world. This is just how it is. So, all of this is going on, and it's just, he's just going through this whole thing. He's just going through this whole evolution of his body being completely destroyed by angelic power, while his daughter is basically handicapped because of a police officer, and like he wants revenge. Like you would, this is something like you can believe a father watches his daughter get hit by a police officer and the courts aren't gonna do anything about it. He wants to take the matter into his own hands, and like with this whole angelic thing going on, and the feeling of injustice that he feels off the man when he ends up seeing him in court, it's just like bleeding out of him to the point where he makes a statement where like you should be dead. Which, might I add, I think there was more to him. I really do. Before Travis Scott, no, not Travis Scott, Travis, I can't remember his name, his last name, it just escapes me. The police officer who hit Maya, if you remember his last name, please drop it. But like we get to see like this whole situation, and like he says you should be dead, and I do think there was like maybe he has some paranormal in him, and he could, or maybe he could just feel the wave of angelic that was coming off of him. But that's not important right now. That's not important because he doesn't live long enough to like for us to deal with the whole situation anyway, unless he comes back in book 3 from God knows what. But we get this whole case that's going on, and like while he's doing this, he ends up rescuing Daria, who is, for all I'm just gonna say, I don't know what to call her. I don't know what to call her power, but she can see. She can see the future. Yeah, she can see a psych. I don't want to call her a psychic because even calling her a psychic seems like it doesn't do her justice. Oh my God, she is so strong. Like she could see well now she can only see Warner. She can see Warner's future, but she can see everything. She can see like every possibility and possibilities that going on, but like she can see anything that can happen and could happen. She can see all the threads of timelines. So like what's the way to put this? So like how to say this? If you've seen Steins Gate, in Steins Gate they do this, they show this little image, and it's like a whole bunch of universes running on side of each other. And it's like they're running aside of each other in parallel. So every action you take, you hop onto another. Every time he goes back in time, he hops onto another universe's timeline. So it's kind of like that. She can see all these threads and what's going on. So we get to see her dealing. So we get to meet her after he fights a spirit of malevolence, and he saves her, and she falls in love with him. You know, classic Wendy Aaron stuff. Yada yada. All this happens. None of this is really like that important. I'm gonna skip like through the book because we get a whole bunch of. Well, he's yellow eyes too. First of all, he's yellow eyes. If you've read Incubus or if you've read Incubus or Swing Shift, he is for yellow eyes. So take that how you can, because obviously Retribution is yellow eyes. But I want to skip a little ahead. So he ends up going through and seeing like the whole situation at the game. You know, with the paranormal activity explosion, back in Swing Shift when during the football game, we get all of that. And to me, the first book was more of a character building thing. That's not really important to me. We get the information, we get drop stuff, but that's not the important thing. Book 2 is the most important part. and we get copious amounts of information there. We get to see him dealing with. We get to see him continue his crusade as Retribution, which he finds out that he actually has the divine sparks of Retribution. We get to see Decima, and we get to see Tammy. We get to see Sam, Alex, and all of them. But like the main point, like the main story I really want to focus on this part is like we get to see his battle with like his divine portfolio, because like he starts taking actions that aren't exactly retribution, and they lined up more on the line of vengeance. And as we go on through the story, we figure out that's what created the fall of retribution. And this is why the scales are so much unbalanced. Like if you remember in Incubus, when they had Incubus book 2, when they were going through chasing out of the log, and they ended up running into the judge in the Castle of Retribution, and we got to see the scales were in disrepair, and the world kept on sliding lower and lower, and the scales kept being more unbalanced. Retribution wasn't there, and he couldn't touch the scales because those little black monsters that Sam and them end up getting attacked by, they were injustice that Retribution himself, Warren Norwood, brought on because, well, Baron died, his best friend, his brother, and like he started killing people not out of retribution, not of because it was his job to balance the scales, but out of vengeance. So when Warner ended up taking on Retribution's divine spark, he ends up taking on a part of this vengeance. So he starts slipping, and he starts slipping out of retribution to the point where he stops being able to access his powers. And when he can't access his powers in some situation, and his powers rejected him, it just like it kind of starts breaking him. Like he can't do this and that, and like he keeps losing control. And we found out later on in book 2 that this is the exact same thing that happened to Warren after Baron had died. You know, the original Retribution. So when this all happens, while he's trying to figure out what's going on, why his body is why his powers is now rejecting him, why he started throwing up injustice, he ends up running into the sword singer, Diane, who again we meet the first time we actually meet her. We meet her back in Retribution book 1, but more importantly, we get to see her in Swing Shift. What was it? It was book 3. So that's the thing. So this isn't the first time we meet her, but she runs it. But Diane, who was the sword singer, was like there with a whole bunch of Valkyries, and we get to meet her. She kind of like helps him by introducing Warner to the curator, or Miles Campbell. So that was something. But if you remember what I said earlier, he actually knew Miles, but like his memories were repressed. He was he was Mitch, so Miles ended up repressing his memories because he was kind of scarred after what happened. Because you know, getting chased by a fucking witch through Florida, yeah, that'll screw with anybody. You know, that's getting chased by a witch and a whole bunch of zombies. Yeah, that's kind of scarring for a kid. So they get Miles end up locking those memories. So while this is all going on, Miles decides. Well, he doesn't decide because he was going to. He helps Warner deal with this problem because, well, he has to spark a retribution. So he is basically justice at this point. So without saying it, really, he's the last hope for justice that we have to balance the scales, because only retribution can balance the scales. And with Warren still missing, Warner is the only person who can really touch the scales. So Miles ends up connecting Warner with Gus. Yes. And they end up going to the scales. And while all this is going on, I forgot to mention that he's starting to see, at this point, he starts to see white specks in his own power. And like, he goes and touches the scales. And this is really important because I love this reference. This is like something like when we were dealing with the scales, we get to see him actually go fight the injustice that Warren created in the plane of retribution. So while he's dealing with that, he prays. Well, he prays to Runner, and Runner watches him, and he observes him, and he touches him, and like he gives him back control of his power, but it's not his power because when Warner, when Runner, for all intents and purposes, to say blessed him, he ends up becoming the angel of redemption. And redemption is something that's very important in this multiverse series because we get to see redemption all the way back in Other Life. Other Life. We get redemption has started in book 1 of Other Life. We get all these references to people being redeemed and redemption back then, to the point where Reiki after the events of Other Life and Dungeon of Pose, after the events of Other Life, but between Dungeon of Pose, ends up taking on the domain of the God of redemption in the original world. So we get all of this. We get all of these references back then to what's going on now, and it was just so hype to me. I just got so excited because we don't get to see Runner in this part of the series. We haven't really seen Runner do anything since Super Cells on Superheroes in Wandering Waste. Wait, is it Wandering Waste? Oh, I can't remember. Wild Waste. Fuck. How did I forget that? Anyway, I digress. We don't really get to see Runner, and we never got to see Runner since then. So it was really exciting for me to actually get to see Runner do something after all this time. So with all of this going on, and we getting all of this stuff that's going, I said that. With when he became the Angel of Retribution, it was like it was just because like what I failed to mention earlier was he became an angel of he became the angel of redemption after his battle with vengeance inside of himself, dealing with the fact that his divine spark, which was retribution, got morphed into, well, he started falling down the same path that Warren did. Well, Warner started falling down the same path that Warren did, and he started falling towards vengeance. After, well, he just kept losing control and he kept falling towards vengeance. But but he was able to be redeemed, and he started falling from the path of vengeance. And Runner redeems him, and he becomes the angel of redemption. And with this, he gains access to his power, and he doesn't lose control. So we get to see another evolution in his divine portfolio. So we get to see him switch from retribution to retribution muddled with vengeance to vengeance to redemption. So we get to see him. It's like a scale, and like it's like a scale of balance within itself. So vengeance on one side and retribution on the other, and redemption just in the middle. So we get to see, well, redemption is kind of the whole scale, but we get to see him become that angel. So skipping ahead a little bit, after this whole situation, after this whole situation with the him becoming the angel of redemption, Gus and him, Gus, Warner, and Diane end up going to go find his his founding relic. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember off the top of my head. They go and go find his icon. They go and look for his icon, which is guarded by a whole bunch of boogies, a whole bunch of bogies. I don't really want to call them boogeymen and boogie women because that's kind of stupid. But which is guarded by a whole bunch of bogies. But at this point, bogies are no match for an angel. So we are for an angelic. We knew this from the jump. This is a whole their own completely different scale. So that's the thing. Anyway, so he ends up going down. He ends up getting healed, but he ends up finding the icon of the sword singer too. So he ends up giving it, who is Diane, and he ends up giving her back her icon, which is another thing that just sees him partially redeem Warren, which we get to see more of later, by giving back the icon, which is it was great. We also get another run in with a torment. So the torment of hunger. So that was great. I like that. But we get to see him give her back her icon, which is like it was, cause like it was so, to me, I really like the fact that he gave her back her icon because it was giving her back her own identity. So because it showed that, because she hated Retribution Warren because he she thought he destroyed her icon, but he didn't. So he ends up giving. So Warner ends up giving him. Oh my God, this is so Warren. Ah, he should have chose a different name. Anyway, he ends up giving back the icon, and she goes on. He tells her to go on. So Gus and Warren, no Warner, end up going plane hopping, go plane hopping, looking for, well, the other piece to Warner's icon, because it was only one piece. So they go looking, they go hopping through dimensions, and I'm pretty sure that beautiful woman we saw, the redhead, in when they were playing hopping, it's probably going to be a reference to Philip, who we're probably going to meet in the next series of William D. Aaron's whole thing. So unless we already met him, but we haven't, do we know a Philip? I don't think we know a Philip. If we know a Philip, let me know down in the comments below, because I can't remember if we know a Philip. So we get this whole thing with him running into doing that, and they end up on the plane of Barons. So while they end up on the plane of Baron, they find the icon, which is Retribution. Retribution ended up making a whole temple to Baron. Like, bruh, like the dedication Warren had for Baron, it's like it's on a whole nother level. Like, they were true brothers. So they end up finding the icon, and Warren, no Warner. Once he finds the two icons, he really becomes the he really becomes Retribution. But because Gus has a link to Baron as a descendant of him, and he's the last, what we know of as the last living relative to Baron, Warner thought it'd be good to name him the owner of this plane, and he hands him that right. So when he does that, Warren shows up, like the original Retribution, who isn't Retribution anymore, but Vengeance. So we end up getting a battle between Warner, and Diane shows up, and they end up battling Warren. And it's just funny because, like, Warner looks at looks at Diane, who's the sword singer, and was like, "Do we have a chance of winning?" And she's like, "Probably not." And it was so funny. She was like, "Um, we're finna get our asses kicked." It's basically what she said. But she doesn't run, and they don't run. They end up standing their own ground. So they end up having this whole fight, and at this point, Warner is like getting progressively stronger during the fight because his divine portfolio is completed. So at this point, he can stand on equal grounds during the fight with Warren, but having Gus, who has just become an angelic himself, a bogey angelic, by the way. So that's something. That's something we're probably going to get more information on later. We get to see this whole situation. We get to see that. So he, at this point, he's just not getting the information of that. So he's a liability in this fight, and so was Diane because, well, neither one of them can fight on par with these two behemoths. I'm gonna call them founding angelics because they were hand they were handcrafted by Runner, and we find out a little bit later, Riker, or the originator and the architect. So during this whole battle, we get to see Warren. We get to see Warner constantly battle, but not with a fight, but with his words. Well, while they're fighting against Warren, and he's slowly like showing him that like you're not Retribution anymore. You failed at being Retribution after Baron died. You didn't swear Retribution. You swore vengeance, and you corrupted your own divine portfolio. So with this happening, he inadvertently started corrupting the world, which was already on a downward spiral thanks to Zeus, the solid one, and everything he was doing. So all he did was make it worse. So they had this whole battle, and he kept yelling that he was Retribution, but Warner kept saying like, "Hey, you gave me this power. You gave him the power to preserve the mantle of Retribution, because he did." We find out during this fight that Miles and Retribution came together to put the divine spark inside of Warner, or Mitch back when he was Mitch, to preserve what was left of Retribution. Because as far as I know, Mitch, Warner or Mitch back when he was Mitch was just a Nephilim, a descendant of angelic. So he held a divine spark. He could hold a divine spark, but it would inadvertently kill him one day because, well, a Nephilim's still a Nephilim. They're not an angelic. So holding a true angelic's power, especially one crafted by the originator and the architect, yeah, that's a lot of power. So we end up seeing this whole situation. We get to see this battle between them, and while Warner's attacking him, Warner completely stops attacking him physically and start attacking him with his words, showing him like, this is what you did. He basically hits Warner with the talk no jutsu, and like he says, this is what you did, what was wrong, and this is why you're bad. And because he showed him that he corrupted his own divine portfolio, he uses his true name, which really gets Warren's attention, because at this point we just know him as Warren. Through the books we get reference to, he's just known as Retribution. We never get his true name until Right of Retribution Book 1, but we never got his last name, which was in fact Norwood, which that's important. That's really important, because if you remember, that's Runner's last name. To give him Norwood as a name means Runner truly saw him as his son, and he basically tells Warren that, hey, you're hurting father by doing this. And hearing this, hearing Warner tell Warren that he's hurting father really like it like breaks into him like, oh fuck, I fucked up. And but at this point we already have a problem because this is at the point where Warren kills Warner. Like actually kills him. Like he actually kills him. And like while Warner's dying, he tells Warren, I'm not the angel of retribution. I'm the angel of redemption, holding the right of retribution. And with my authority, I give the right of retribution back to you. The title of retribution back to you, Warren Norwood, and he does. And that's the last thing he did before he died. But that's not it, because when he dies, we find out Warren was actually hand created. I'm not Warren. Warner was actually hand created by Riker. We don't get name dropped to Riker, like I said earlier. We haven't got anything about Riker since book fucking what 3? No, we see him. Yeah, book 3 and swing. Super Sets on Superheroes, but that's a while ago during the timeline. So we don't get to see him until like just now after so long, and which is it's great because it actually shows like well we knew that he was still working with Runner based on what we saw in the Super Cells on Superheroes, but we don't get to really see him do anything at all because at that point it was all Alric doing things. We don't really get to see him doing anything. So to see him actually do something in this, it was like it just felt good. So basically, Warner was actually just a fail safe, just in case the system of justice or retribution ends up getting corrupted. So he was the fail safe. His body and everything was created by Riker himself, but his soul was a piece of Runner's. So he was truly like he was a failsafe. He's to be honest, he's probably the most powerful angel out of all of the angels. But like he gets all this information. He gets to find out like more about himself from I don't want to spoil too much because like I've been talking for like 37 minutes and my throat's kind of sore. So I'm probably gonna end up cutting a lot of this out because Jesus fuck 37 minutes. Fuck. Anyway, so we get to see all this and the whole thing about the whole, you know what I'm trying to say. Leave me alone. Why am I losing my mind? I can't. Oh, need some water. We get to see the whole information. We get information drop. I'm not gonna tell you exactly what Riker tells or Uncle Riker, the architect, tells Warner because I really think you should read it because it's actually kind of important. And but once he goes and decides, okay, now I'll come and get you. Riker says, I'll come and get you when Runner and I return from death and give him back his life. So he decides. So after this, Warner starts making his way to the afterlife. But before he can, Warren scoops up out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I don't." He's basically saying, "I don't deserve the position. I'm gonna give this back to you. Now you will be the angel of vengeance, redemption, and retribution." And Warner asks, "Are you sure about this? Because once you do this, you can't go back." And Warren just basically like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna go spend my afterlife with Baron, with my brother and his family." And he does. And that's basically the end of the series because, well, we get the whole well, this is part of the epilogue, but we get the whole, the yada yada, him getting a reference to the girls and this and that, and la 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 la. We get all of that. But, everything that's happening, I hate how long this video is, but everything that happened in this series was so very hype, and I'm so glad. Like, book two was such a very important because it feels like we're gonna get something really important going on in the next book series. Well, not the next book series, but in the next book to Rite of Retribution and Incubus book two. Maybe we'll actually get a reference to the actual fight in itself, which I'm completely hyped for. So that's basically all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say. It's damn near 40 minutes. I'm not fucking teching. Oh my god. But yeah. Um that's that. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to end this video. Like, it's just I loved how, like, I do think like this. Oh, a score 9 out of fucking 10 would read again, will read again. I really do think this is probably his best series so far. If they cut it off right here, like if we don't get another Retribution book, it's a 9 out of 10 book series. But he does it in trilogy. So I'm really scared about book three because, but I don't know. All I gotta say, William D. Aaron is fucking back. He is back on his grind, and this shit is great. So I do recommend you go and read it because I did skip over a lot of information because I tried to run through this as fast as I can, but as you can tell by the length of this fucking video, I failed to do it fast enough. So yeah, that happened. So you've watched this, and like, I know, like, I did a pretty good idea of running through the whole book, but you really gotta read it because, like, it does it more. I didn't do it. I can never use enough words to do this book series justice. I can't. I just can't. If you've read all of William D. Aaron and Randy Darren's series, you need to read this because it's so important to the timeline, which I'm gonna make a video on later because it's it's almost everything. We get to see so much, and I really think you do need to read this. But this has been me. I've been talking for God knows how long. I've been talking for on my end is fucking whew, 50 minutes. So I'm gonna try to edit this down to as short as possible, which is gonna kill me because I need to do both of these before I go to work. Both of these videos, I'm trying to record two. Trying to get 2 videos out a day, 2 videos out a week. So please, this is gonna be kind of loose, so don't kick my ass over this. I know I made a video saying I was gonna do more videos, and I really want to, and I'm going to. So like, this is the first start of me actually trying to do 2 videos a week, 1 video. I'm gonna do at least 1 video a week. I promise. 2 is like what I'm going for though. So thanks for watching. Do the YouTube shit. You know what it is. This ain't your first time watching a YouTube video, and it won't be your last. So do the YouTube stuff. Share to other like William D. Aaron fans or just books fans in general because I'm gonna be trying to do more book stuff. I'm gonna do skits on my channel too, so that's gonna be fun. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Really, I really don't got anything else to say. I'll catch y'all later. See ya.